So, what is the story of your calling to ministry, and how has that path brought you to where you are today?
Well, the story to my calling in ministry, it kind of, it wasn't something that happened really fast. It was like, first of all, the beginning is coming to the Lord and then coming into service to the Lord. So when I came to the church several years ago, then I got involved in ministry, and I was invited into ministry, into serving. And so I was very thankful for individuals that reached out to me and asked me to be a part of what they were doing here. So then serving for at least 7 years faithfully, and through that developed other ministry opportunities, outreach opportunities, and these are ways that I got more involved here at the church. So by becoming visible here, then when other opportunities, in this case children's ministry, became available, I was approached. I was approached for youth and also for children's. And for me, I didn't want to feel like, because of my relationships with the people on staff, I didn't want to feel like I was manipulating anything. I wanted to know that it was God. So the first two times I just declined to pursue anything like that. So in the middle of, I think it was around this time of the year, actually, in 1995, where I was doing an outreach in a apartment complex near here. And I felt, after the event was over, I felt a move in my heart that said, you're going to be doing this for full time. And I was like, wow, okay. All right, so I hung on to that, all right. Well, continued to serve and all that, but I wanted to kind of keep that to myself. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until 2001 where I was approached to have to be full-time pastor here for the children's ministry. And I knew, and I still it was, I took time to pray and just see what God was doing through all this. And my prayer time showed me that if I was to decline from this, and I was working on contract to General Motors. Angie, my wife, was a teacher, and we had just had our first child, and so it would have been quite a change, okay? But we had been looking for something like this, but it definitely was quite the change. And I felt that if I was to decline this time, then I felt like I would be in direct disobedience to the Lord. That's how I knew. Mm-hmm. And so, I was serving on the board at that time, and it was cool. We were brought on, and so that began our time of ministry here, and it's been just such a growing experience over the years.
Cool. So how have you built and continue to build great leadership skills in yourself?
Okay, well, I'll tell you, you're right, continuing to build. That's something that I'm growing in. My personality is I'm a doer, okay? I really am. I do things, like get the job done. And there are people where leadership is a little bit more natural to them, mm-hmm. where they're able to rally people and get people involved. Now I'm able to rally people, but I'm needing to go the next step where I'm not only getting people involved, but getting people to be leaders themselves, and that's mm-hmm. That's a challenge. And so the things that I've done is I've worked with other children's pastors, other peers. I would talk with them, share my experience, they share theirs, and also look at other people who are leaders and see what they're doing, and mm-hmm. surround myself with other leaders. One of the greatest example that I've had is Pastor Cal, our senior pastor here. I've grown so much under his leadership, and there's just a lot of things that you can't just sit down and learn out of a book, or even if somebody's just telling you. Yeah. It's about doing, but then also about watching how somebody leads. And you take that away with you, and you apply it to your experience. You apply it to your situation. See, how can I apply that to what I'm doing right now, and be able to make a difference? So mainly surrounding yourself with other leaders and following their example.
Yeah, that's good. So over your years in ministry, what has been your hardest obstacle, and how did you overcome it? and what did you learn from it?
All right. Yes. As I look over the years, and this past July was 16 years full-time ministry here. And I think back the beginning years, as I said earlier, I'm a doer. I like to get things done. And it seems like a lot more effort or a lot more work to be able to get other people involved, and for me to explain it to them, to do it the way that I need it done. And so what happens is you become frustrated because you don't find people like that to do it just like you. Because guess what? I do it just like the way I do it, but not everybody does things like me. And that's something you gotta let go of. And I heard a statistic, and it was through some leadership training. And we all want 100% of what we want done. We want it done 100%. Okay, so whatever I'm going to do, I want it done that way. And obviously, I'm not perfect in what I'm doing. I'm always wanting more, but whatever I can get done, I would look at that as 100%. I have to be willing, if I'm going to delegate, and I know about delegating. But the next step, besides just delegating, is being able to be willing to release whatever it is to those individuals, and try to get to the place where they can get 80% of what it is that I'm looking for. If I can get them to do 80% of what I need done, then that's a win. Because guess what? That probably the other 20% that I'm concerned with probably doesn't make that big of a deal. At least not as big of a deal as raising another leader that can get 80% of what you're looking for. And if you get people to do that amount of work, guess what? That releases me to do other things that people can't do. So that has been a challenge, and I'm getting better at it. Definitely, I'm getting better at it. I'm realizing that I'm not too wound up in all the details. I'm just trying to release it and be okay with it and come along and coach them in different ways to help better their performance and their leadership. So that would be my greatest challenge, and I'd say that is probably one of still the greatest challenges that I have right now in leadership.
Cool. So what is one thing you know now that you wish you would have known when you started ministry?
Well, when it comes to ministry and leadership, I think it's important to understand they go together. So I think when I started ministry, I was just a minister, okay? I would do things, and I didn't realize the potential in the team. A lot of times when you think about leadership, you're thinking of like in a corporate setting, you're thinking about just those kind of employment structures, and when you think of ministry, well, it's just something different. But it isn't really. There's an organization to it, and God is an organized. You know, he has organization involved. He has authority involved, and I think there was just too much of doing things on my own, and not seeing the importance, the priority in being able to raise other leaders right from the start. I think it's something that it was delayed. It came later, and then I realized more the value in having others come alongside me. So again, that kind of ties into the whole challenge in leadership that I've had. So what I'm telling my people now, that my future leaders now, is I'm telling them, you bring somebody else along. You show somebody else now what you're doing. So that quickly they are trying to release what they have so that they can go into something else that will release them into further ministry, further leadership. And so, I know that now how important it is, so I want them to know that so that they can grow as leaders also.
Very cool. What has been the most rewarding part of being a leader in ministry?
What has been so rewarding, and specifically being in children's ministry, is being in it long enough to where you see the children grow up and become adults and get married and have children and come back and they're part of my ministry team. Okay, so that is really cool. It's just it is just incredible to be able to see that and experience and know that you had a part in that. You know, it just feels really good. Even now with children who are in the ministry, being able to look at them and see them light up when they make a connection about something that they're understanding in the Bible and how it applies to their life. And I'd say the volunteers that we have involved here, and when I see them operating in the gifts that God has blessed them with, in the passion that they have, and so that what they're doing, they do it just because they love it. They love it. That is just phenomenal to me. I think it's a beautiful thing, and that's my hope and desire for all of my leadership here, all of my ministers here. We want them to be fitted properly according to the gifts that they have, and there's great joy in that, and there's great ministry that takes place when people are in the right place. So I kind of mentioned like several different things there. Those things are all, very rewarding, I just really, really, it's such a blessing for me to see take place.
Very cool. Great.